Coming in at number 10 now, we have Håkan Nordqvist. In 2006, this Swedish man claimed he had been to the year 2046. How did he get there? Through his kitchen sink. He was trying to fix a problem under his sink, but when he went into the cabinet, he noticed that it just didn't end. It kept on going and going and going. Eventually, he reached the end of the tunnel, and there he was in the year 2042, and he met his older self. This might be easy to dismiss, but for one thing, he brought his phone with him and he filmed it. What you're seeing now is the footage of him meeting his older self in the year 2042. They even show each other their identical tattoos. I don't know about this one. Maybe we'll have to wait until 2042 to see if he really was telling the truth. Alright, at number 9 now we have the Chaplin Time Traveler. In 2010, a clip was uploaded to YouTube from the Extras DVD of Charlie Chaplin's film The Circus. It shows people attending the premiere of the movie, and then there is this woman. Now people claim she is talking into a phone. Problem is, this was 1928, about 45 years before the first cell phone was ever even conceived of. Believers say that there would be no reason to hold something to your face in 1928 and talk into it, so what was she doing? Was it a cell phone? Is she a time traveler? Or is there some simple explanation for it? At number 8 now we have the Hamburg bombing. In 1932, two German news reporters visited the Hamburg shipyards to work on a story. J. Bernard Hutton and Joachim Brandt finished their interviews, and as they left, they heard aircraft above them. The sky was filled with warplanes. They heard the city's anti-aircraft guns firing as bombs exploded around them. The shipyard was being bombed. Huge fires started. Warehouses collapsed. The two men ran to see if they could go and help someone, but were told by a security guard to just leave. As they drove away, the sky suddenly started to clear. The streets were busy again with people. The buildings were totally intact. They looked back and everything was fine. They told their editors this, who dismissed it completely, so the men just kind of forgot about it. 11 years later, in 1943, at the height of World War II, the Hamburg shipyards were bombed by Britain. Bernard Hutton saw the newspaper pictures and felt a shiver along his spine. The scenes of devastation were exactly what he had seen in person 11 years before. At number 7 now, we have the time-traveling hipster. This is a picture from 1941 of the reopening of a bridge in British Columbia, Canada. People's eyes were immediately drawn to this man. His clothes don't seem to fit in. He looks more like a modern day hipster than someone from 1941. People said his camera was just too compact for that era. For them, this was a sure sign of a time traveler wearing and using things that just didn't exist back then. The photo has been deemed as authentic. It's not a fake. Critics of this theory though say that the clothes and the camera were available at that time, though not widely common. Alright, at number 6 now we have Andrew Carlson. In 2003, this man was arrested for playing the stock market too well. Over a 2-week period, he went from having $800 to $350 million. He was arrested on the allegation that he had insider information. Under questioning, he confessed he was actually from the year 2256. That's how he knew which stocks were going to perform best. He promised to tell them the whereabouts of Osama bin Laden or the cure to AIDS if they let him go. He supposedly predicted the exact date of the Iraq war starting as proof. The police essentially dismissed him as crazy and found no evidence that he had committed fraud, so they let him go. As the world media swarmed to interview him, he was gone and has never been heard of since. Coming out at number 5 now, we have Sir Victor Goddard. He was a famous British air marshal, most famous for his squad picture that contained the supposed ghost of a former member. He also claimed to have travelled in time. In 1935, he was ordered to fly from Scotland to England when he passed over the abandoned Drem airfield. At that time, it was out of use. Plants had grown everywhere. There were even cows grazing on the runway. Suddenly, he ran into a strange storm. The clouds were yellow and Goddard became disorientated. He was just lost in the clouds and falling. Then the yellow clouds broke and he could see the airfield again. The storm vanished. Everything was clear. The airfield had changed. There were now mechanics there working on brand new planes. 3 of them he recognized, but the 4th was a monoplane that didn't even exist in 1935. The planes were all yellow and the mechanics were wearing blue overalls. He had never seen anything like it. Eventually though, after many years, the planes and the new uniforms did come to pass. Drem Airfield even came back into use, just like Goddard said. Was this all a lucky guess or a genuine time slip? At number 4 now, we have John Titor. In 2000, a person calling himself John Titor announced on an online forum that he was an American soldier from the year 2036. Now he said the government sent him back to 1976 to get an IBM computer which they needed to debug computers in the future. He stopped off in 2000 for personal reasons and decided to let people in on the secrets of the future. He got certain things right: North Korea developing missiles, IBM computers having secret functions. He also left detailed schematics and explanations of his actual time machine. But he did get some things wrong. He said there would be another American Civil War in 2008 and World War III would have happened by 2015. But he also said that timelines could be changed. Does that explain it? Either way, the mysterious John Titor disappeared altogether from the internet in 2003. Okay, at number 3 now, we have the Mike Tyson fight. In 1995, Mike Tyson boxed Peter McNeely in Nevada. In 2015, YouTube started buzzing with people saying that in the background of one of the clips of this fight, there was a time traveler. They said this woman here was carrying what is clearly a smartphone and taking pictures, years before that was even possible. They said that no phone like that existed in 1995 and that it even flashed red like a smartphone. Other people countered by showing examples of cameras that did exist back then that kind of look similar. What do you guys think though? Is it too close to call, or is it proof of a time traveling boxing fan going back to watch their favorite match? Okay, at number 2 now, we have the astronaut. The Catedral Nueva in Spain started being built in 1513. It's a grand old cathedral with a lot of nice stonework you'd expect from the Middle Ages, except for one bit of it. There, along one of the entrances, is a carving of an astronaut. What is an astronaut doing on a 16th century church? Well, this is where the explanations divide. The church itself and many other people there say that the astronaut was added as part of a 1992 restoration project. That makes sense, but others say that doesn't add up. They say that the astronaut was carved a lot earlier than that, and that the restoration work was actually to just repair the damaged astronaut. They say it was proof of a time-traveling astronaut who left a little mark on the era he visited. And finally now, at number 1, we have Gertrude Jones. This is her in 1938 leaving the factory where she worked. Some people on YouTube were freaking out, saying that she was talking into a phone decades before that was even possible. They said even the way she holds it is reminiscent of someone holding a smartphone with your thumb over the screen. However, in 2013, a woman came forward in the comment section of the video to say that she was the great-granddaughter of Gertrude, who was actually part of a science experiment to test an early wireless phone. Some people say that's it, case closed, no more explanation is needed. But others say there are no records of these experiments that happened about 40 years before the first cell phone prototypes were even being made. Was Gertrude a time traveler? Was she also the person who commented on the YouTube video in an attempt to cover her tracks? What do you guys think of this one? Starting off at number 10 now, we have the time travel murder. This creepy story comes from 1997, where forensic scientist Mike Silverman was working on the case of a woman's murder in London. He found biological material underneath her fingernails and presumed this was from scratching her attacker just before she died. He ran the DNA sample through the national database and bam! There was a match with someone. The only problem was the match was with a woman who had already been murdered 3 weeks before. There was no connection between the two women and nothing to suggest they had ever met. Mike found that there was no mix-up with the samples, and his best theory was that the scissors used to take the samples at the mortuary had been contaminated despite being cleaned. Other people claim this wouldn't have been possible, and that what we're really dealing with here is a mysterious feud between one or many time travelers who weren't very good at cleaning up after themselves. Coming in at number 9 now, we have Jofar Vorin. In 1851, a man named Jofar was found wandering in a German village. He spoke broken German a little bit, but said his main languages were Laxarian and Abramian. He said he was from Laxaria on the continent of Sakria, separated from Europe by a vast ocean. The other continents were Aflar, Aslar, Auslar, and Uplar. He claimed to be a Christian, although he called it is patient. The authorities grilled him, but he never tripped up and his languages held up as apparently real. The story goes cold after he was sent to Berlin for further study, and some people claim that the German government has been hiding further information on Jofar because it all points towards him being a time traveler from a distant future. Alright, at the number 8 spot now, we have Al Bielek. In 1988, this American man watched the Philadelphia Experiment, a movie about a supposed time traveling experiment conducted by the US on one of their ships. When he saw the movie, he claimed he remembered a repressed memory, that he was part of that real experiment that the movie was based on. He said he was part of a time traveling project and was sent to 100,000 BC and as far forward as the year 6037. He also recounted how he lived for 2 years in the future from 2749 to 2751. Right up to his death in 2011, Al was doing interviews where he discussed in great detail the future that he lived in, how society had changed, and why he was allowed by the government to share his story with everyone. Whatever you guys think of this one, it's definitely worth checking out. Alright, coming in at number 7 now, we have the Swiss watch. Switzerland is famous for making luxury watches. You'll often see them strapped onto the wrists of many rich people. However, you wouldn't expect to see one in a 400-year-old Chinese tomb, except that is supposedly what happened in 2008. Archaeologists were excavating a tomb dating to the Ming dynasty when they found what they thought was just a normal grime-encrusted ring, but after wiping off the dirt, they were shocked to see what appeared to be a tiny Swiss watch that fits on a ring. How did this object appear in a sealed tomb hundreds of years before its earliest invention? It was labelled an UPART, which stands for out of place artifact. Some say this is the work of a careless time traveller, other people say it's just Photoshop. In the years since its discovery, it still draws heated discussion. Alright, coming in at number 6 now, we have Andrew Basiago. This American lawyer claims that when he was growing up in the 1960s and 70s, he was part of Project Pegasus, a time travel experiment by the US government. The machines they used for time travel were built from plans found in the office of scientific genius Nikola Tesla after he died. Now he claims that he was sent back many times from a million years BC to Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, and that he's even visited the year 2045. He says that the US government has been trying to cover up the truth of its time travel technology, and that he is actually going to run for president in 2020 and then show everyone the truth if he wins. Some people say he's crazy, others say that's just what they want you to think. Who is they? I don't know who they is, I'm afraid. Okay, at number 5 now, we have the 40s car. In 1988, Strange magazine posted the story of an interview with 2 businessmen. They said that in 1969 they were driving along a deserted highway in America when ahead of them they saw an old turtleback style 1940s car. It was in mint condition and even had 1940 on its license plate. They pulled alongside it to get a better view. There was a woman in the driver's seat dressed in a 1940s style fur coat and feathered hat. A small child stood in the passenger seat next to her. The woman had a look of absolute terror on her face. She kept looking everywhere in horror. The men signaled for her to pull over because she seemed like she was in distress. She finally nodded, so they overtook her and pulled over by the side of the road. They saw she was doing the same, but when they came to a stop and looked behind them, the car had vanished. They were shocked. Another eyewitness in another car had seen the exact same thing happen. Some people speculate this was an unwilling time traveller spiraling in and out of different times. Pretty scary thought. Alright, next up at number 4 now, we have the chronovisor. In the 1950s, a priest known as Father Ernetti claimed to have built a device known as the chronovisor, which could see forwards and backwards in time. The machine was said to be built by a team of scientists and was essentially a cabinet made of metal with tubes and dials and levers for controlling what time you wanted to look into. When you looked inside, the machine would supposedly pick up on residual electromagnetic radiation left over from past events, and that would allow you to see them. Father Ernetti claimed that he saw a number of different events, including the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. He even took this picture of that event. A lot of people claim this was a complete hoax, and towards the end of his life, Ernetti confessed confessed that the pictures weren't real, but up to his last breath he insisted the chronovisor was totally 100% real. Some people believe it still lies in the Vatican's hidden chambers to this day. Next up at number 3 now we have the smartphone. This is a painting depicting Mr. William Pynchon, a fur trader born in 1590 trading with Native Americans. Everything looks pretty ordinary until you focus on this guy in the front who appears to be holding a smartphone. Many people said that the object's appearance, the way he is holding it, and the way he is looking at it means it can only be a smartphone. The painting itself isn't from that time. It was painted in 1937. However, that's still almost 7 decades before the dawn of smartphones. The painter died in 1982, leaving behind a fierce debate. Some people say it's proof of time travel, while others say it's just an iron blade, a religious text, or a mirror. What do you guys make of it? Coming at number 2 now, we have the Coso artifact. In 1961, geologists found a strange looking lump of hard rock near the town of Olancha in California. They dated its formation to around 500,000 years ago. Inside of it was a spark plug, the ignition device used for a lot of modern day engines. Pictures were taken of the Coso artifact and it was analysed in great detail, but still there was great confusion about where it could have possibly came from. A number of investigators came to the conclusion that the Coso artifact must have been left by time travelers 500,000 years ago, either by accident or as a clue for us. Critics say that the dating methods used were flawed or totally non-existent. If you're hoping to one day take a look at this thing for yourself, the Coso artifact disappeared some years later, but the debate still remains. Alright, finally now at the number 1 spot we have the man from Tauret. In July 1954, a Caucasian man landed in Tokyo International Airport where officers asked him where he was from. He said, Tauret. They said that didn't exist and asked to see his passport, which claimed he was a citizen of Tauret. He said it was located somewhere between France and Spain and that he was from a town that was over 1,000 years old. They asked him to point to it on a map and he pointed to Andorra and seemed very confused why they were calling it Andorra and not Tauret. They decided to investigate it further and left him in a guarded hotel room for that night. You know how this one goes. The next morning, he was gone without a trace. There were no signs of his escape. The theories for this story range from parallel universe slips to time travelers from the future.
And at number 10 we have Matt Groening. This is a classic one. Everyone thinks that the creator of The Simpsons might be a time traveler. Wait, what? Why would some people think that the creator of a show would possess some sort of superpower? Well, unless you've been living under a log, you would know that The Simpsons have been able to predict the future several times. Everything from 3-eyed fish being discovered to the coronavirus to Donald Trump becoming president. It would seem like the show has a strange knack for looking into the future. They even got the ending of Game of Thrones figured out. Now, what this is probably just like dumb luck or just freaky coincidences, because The Simpsons has been on for so long and is constantly doing social commentary, so it would only be a matter of time before they figured things out. But what if he did actually come from the future and that is how he gets inspiration for his show? Or he has a link to the future that is telling him what might happen so he can work it into the show. Either way, I mean, you gotta admit, those coincidences are pretty freaky.
Coming in at number 9 we have Wim Hof. You might not know this guy, but you definitely should. Some of you might know him as his nickname, the Iceman. But Wim Hof is the man who unlocked some special ability within all of us. Through breathing exercises and some cold therapy, he has been able to take on temperatures that would kill most people in seconds. He also has been able to fight off harmful infections and keep any sort of sickness at bay. Not only that, but he has taught these techniques to people all over the world. He has consistently claimed that he isn't special and that anyone can do this, but here's the thing. This apparently is a technique that has been used for thousands of years. It was just forgotten to our time and people. So did Wim Hof just rediscover something that was lost? Or did he travel from the past to the future to make sure that we never lost this amazing skill that he has been doing forever because he is a Time Lord?
I'm gonna go with the Time Lord option. And at number 8 we have Jennifer Aniston. Here's one that's not like she has some sort of special knowledge. Let's just get real for a second. If you take a picture of Jennifer Aniston when she's 19 and a picture of her when she's 50, it looks pretty much the same. Either this lady is a Time Lord that has the ability to stop her cells from aging because she can bend space and time around herself and become forever young, or she has more money than God and she's spending it on keeping her body young forever. Honestly, it's for sure the second one, because She was on one of the most successful sitcoms of all time and then became one of the biggest stars in the whole world, so she for sure has the money to spend on staying fit and young. Also, not worrying about money is great for your stress, which would help you not look old. But it's more fun to speculate that she's come from the future or past or both, I guess.
Coming in at number 7, we have Taylor Swift. People love to gossip about Miss Swift. I mean, she kind of deserves it because it seems like she's a massive liar and is super snaky when no one's looking, but at the same time, we shouldn't give that much attention to pop stars because there are way more important things to pay attention to. But one of the things that people got on Miss Swift about was the speculation that she was a time traveler. A lot of people think that she's actually Xena Lavey, who was a somewhat famous Satanist from the past who looks just like Taylor Swift. People say that she wasn't getting much traction as a Satanist back in the 80s, so she found a way to travel through time, make herself look younger, and then become a massive celebrity with her Time Lord abilities, and now with her position of power, she's going to take over the world with Satanism.
Alright, sliding into number 6 here, we have Will Smith. Back on the point about someone looking young forever, we have Will Smith, who has been gliding through life as one of the most successful stars who's ever lived, but at the same time, it's been a hot minute since this guy's had a hit movie. How can you be rich and famous for so long without making a solid movie in over a decade? Well, that could be because he has been able to work his way through Hollywood and into the ranks of the elite by becoming a Time Lord and selling knowledge of the future. This has to be the answer, obviously. It's not because he's a crazy hard worker and is apparently one of the nicest people you'll ever meet and is extremely supportive of the people around him and is actually a good actor even though not all of his movies are bangers. No way, the answer has to be Time Lord, and it is for sure that he is confirmed Illuminati.
Coming in at number 5, we have David Blaine. There is no way that you are standing on top of a pole for 3 days, getting locked in ice, and holding your breath until you break the breath hold record, and okay, the balloon thing was kinda lame, but all those other things were way cooler. But can we say that he has some ability to master his body and push himself to levels that no one has ever seen before? That he has gone out of his way to master sleight of hand and become one of the best magicians of all time? Or could we say that this dude is for sure a Time Lord who has been using his abilities to capture the minds of people around him and make us all think that he's some sort of weird dude? No way, man. The reason that he seems so strange is because he's from the year 3000 and he now has a watch that lets him blast back in time and pull off a bunch of crazy stunts. I'm just saying that when this dude dies, you're gonna want to check through all his pockets because he might have a device that can help you blast through time.
At number 4 on this list, we have Joe Exotic. Just looking at the way this guy's dressing and his haircut, I would have to say that he's from a different time. Like, for sure. I mean, he is from Kansas. I've never been there, so is that just what everyone looks like in Kansas? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if that's the truth. It's probably not. Also, where is this dude getting all these tigers from, man? I would like to think that he's breeding them and selling them, but here's more than a logical idea. Wormhole. This guy has been pulling tigers from the past to the future through a wormhole, and he's actually doing this so tigers never go extinct, which is a very noble task, but he should change his wardrobe because it is too easy for people to tell that he is a time traveler when he looks like that. I don't think we have an Illuminati confirmation on him yet, but I am working on it. I've got all my best men on this case.
Coming in at number 3, we have Bruce Lee. I mean, the man came out of nowhere. He was able to master kung fu and other martial arts. He showed the world how to do crazy things with your body and be a human weapon. His hands were registered as lethal weapons. He has one of the most badass quotes of all time. He became one of the biggest movie stars of all time. He changed a decade, was one of the healthiest people who ever lived, and then just died out of nowhere from taking some sort of weird medication. I mean, there is a ton of speculation as to what happened to Bruce Lee. We could spend hours just going through all the conspiracy theories. But how about this one? This dude was a Time Lord who just came back in time to shake things up, become famous, be cool, and then bounced out of nowhere to a different timeline where he could be a legend again.
At number 2 on our list, I feel like I clap every time. Vladimir Putin. I mean, out of everyone on this list so far, this is probably the least shocking. As a kid, he apparently went to the KGB office and told them that he wanted to join, and they told him that no one does this, please leave. And then he spent his life becoming qualified until they accepted him, and then he became the supreme overlord of Russia. So yeah, this dude seems like he knows a thing or two about the future. Also, there's this picture. Is it a coincidence that all of the people lined up who look like Putin are in the army? I don't think so. This dude has been a Time Lord fighting in wars for centuries. Okay.
And coming into the #1 spot, we have Zendaya and Halle Berry. Time Lord works, man. They are in the present timeline so that you can't figure out who they are. But just look at a side-by-side picture of these two. Zendaya looks like she could be Halle Berry's daughter, and maybe there is a relation, but I'm gonna put on my speculation hat and we're going to say that they're the exact same person. One famous light-skinned black woman moves out of Hollywood and then the next one moves in. They are in a time loop as we speak, crossing over the younger version so we never suspect anything when Halle Berry passes, but she already sent the younger version of herself into the past so she never has to die, and when the older version dies, all of her thoughts will be transferred into the younger version. I mean, it's right in front of you guys. How can you not see this? Alright guys, that has been the list. Now we're gonna answer some questions from my Instagram inbox. Sativa Nay wrote in and asked, what movie made you cry the most? You have a movie that made you cry a ton?
Notebook.
The Notebook made you cry super hard?
Or Walk to Remember.
I don't think I've seen either of those. Walk to Remember is the
where Mandy Moore like sings.
Yeah, the 1,000 Miles.
Yeah. No.
No, that's not Walk to Remember.
That's Vanessa Carlton. I don't know how
Okay.
It's a different song that she sings.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Never mind. Well,
What song made you?
song? Movie?
What movie made you cry?
E.T. E.T. When I was a kid, E.T. like I would bawl. Like I would cry so hard. Dude, when E.T. is when the, what's it called? The FBI or CIA, when they have him and he's dying, and then the kid looks at the planet and is dying, I would just bawl. Like I could cry, uncontrollable tears. I would cry so hard that it was like a thing. My sister wouldn't let me watch it, and one of my earliest memories is my sister being like, pick a movie, and I'm like, I want to watch E.T. and she's like, no, you can't watch E.T. You cry every time. I was like, I won't cry this time. And then we watch it, I'm like, ah, he's dying. It f***ed me up.
Sorry, Bobby. That's so funny.
Our next question is Kirby Jish wrote in and asked, what console do you play on? Do you have a console?
No.
No? You don't play on anything?
No.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's wild. You don't play any video games at all? I don't know how you live, dude.
I played The Sims when I was growing up, and then I totally ruined the game because I kept downloading those like skins. Those like skins from all these hackers and stuff, and then I ended up ruining the game.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Did you get like the nude skins where they're
Yeah,
naked?
I wanted the nude skins, and I also wanted my Sims to look like Madonna.
They're all Madonna? You just have like little Madonna
and,
babies?
like Christina Aguilera, and like, yeah, I totally messed it up.
That's pretty cool though. That's a good reason to destroy your computer. I mean, yeah. I play on PlayStation mostly. I have a PC as well. That's about it. Okay? Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you guys really enjoyed this video. As always, I've been your host, Jay Dorena.
I'm Charlotte Dobre.
And until next time, watch out for the Illuminati, because they're always watching. We'll just check
What are we
you.
doing again?
This is Celebrities Might Be Time Travelers.
Ah, yes.